What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. Today we have some pretty exciting news to go over, talking about new builds and some changes that are coming in Renegades in just a couple of weeks. Some reworks to some old exotics, some stuff that is now going to become meta. So if you enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like and stick around for future content, because we are going to be doing top builds for each class going into Renegades, as well as what we're going to be using in the dungeon. So to start this off, we are talking about the changes to the Hunter Exotics. First up is Graviton Forfeit, which once was pretty decent years ago before Destiny 2 launched back in Destiny 1, but there hasn't been a lot of value in this since Void 3.0. There's a ton of access to invisibility nowadays, so they've shifted the exotic to a kill streak / invis streak exotic that charges up your neutral game as you fade in and out of invisibility. This is now going to grant improved melee, grenade, and class ability regenerates for a moderate duration, stacking up to 3 times, and each effect does not deplete while you're invisible, meaning when you stay invisible, that stack will remain with you. And at 3 stacks to this buff, each consecutive trigger will grant you a portion of a Void Overshield, just meaning you're going to have a pretty high uptime on your abilities, as well as the survivability that you're going to get just from the Void Overshield. The next Hunter exotic on our list is Omnioculus. They're going to be leaning into a more potent support role to allow hunters to fill in a bit more of that selfless team role, which frankly, it's another invis exotic, but this is going to grant the effects of Beyond the Veil to allies and also start their health and shield regen. This only applies to allies but not hunters, meaning it is not going to be an issue in PvP. Thank God. Now, this is the one that I'm most excited about, and that is going to be Lucky Raspberry. It's no secret that grenade builds have just been utterly insane since the Edge of Fate launched, so this is going to just be perfect for Arc Hunters. They've done a passover for Arc Bolt grenades itself and the Lucky Raspberry to help with some of the consistency issues, as well as bring them into today's build crafting options. For Arc Bolt, they've increased projectile lifetime of chained projectiles. This helps consistency on moving targets that are near the outer edge of that chained area. It's now activating 0.1 seconds faster than the initial swap, meaning it's going from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds. It's also increased the max chain range of the initial chain from 7 meters to 10 meters, and that is a pretty big change for that one, meaning your Arc Bolts are just going to be stronger and be able to hit more enemies at once. Now, this is always going to apply Jolt on Arc Bolt hits, meaning you can take off that fragment. This will also return Arc Bolt energy on any application of the Jolt debuff or by triggering the Jolt chains on targets already affected by the debuff. If I'm reading this correctly, that means you can use things like jolting feedback to just build into your grenade energy, meaning not only are you going to be creating jolted, you're going to stun overloads, you're going to get grenade energy back, but also creating ionic traces, which will grant you ability energy for your super. Now, this to me is going to be an insane exotic, and I'm really excited to showcase a full build for you guys once this goes live. Now, we've also got Orpheus Rigs, the OG best hunter exotic, along with some ability changes that are coming in Renegades. They've also adjusted how Orpheus Rigs benefit Shadow Shot. There's going to be a little bit more ability tuning coming soon, but this essentially is going to increase the super duration from 16 seconds to 20 seconds, meaning longer debuff times. Orpheus Rigs is always been good and is just going to get a little bit better. Now, lastly, for the hunters, we've got Gemini Jesters. As they mentioned in the Renegades weapon tuning, Gemini has been updated to fit a more universal disorienting verb to keep the debuff effect versus players as similar as possible. We have given it some adjustments that should feel nearly identical to how it was prior, if not slightly more effective. Basically, what this means is it's going to increase the disorient duration against players from half a second to 1 second. That is going to be very annoying in PvP. The random times I go up against people that use Gemini Jesters just makes me want to bang my head against the wall. Now I'm just going to do that for a little bit longer. This also, in addition to applying Disorient, Misdirection also removes opposing players' HUD for 2 seconds. It's going to be good in PvP, it's going to be annoying. The increased Disorient duration against PvE combatants is going from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, so it's not really going to be that viable, I don't think, in PvE. There's going to be a lot better best in slots. Now, Titans, there's some decent changes coming your way. With Arban Warden, it hasn't managed to find much of a niche since its introduction to the game. it's entirely true. I've actually never used it myself, but now we'll definitely give it a try. So picking up 3 orbs of power will enhance your next barricade. And enhanced barricades spawn a Y pattern of 3 of your equipped barricades on a barricade detonation. This does work with barricade modifications like Dragon's Lash and Storm's Keep. That is actually kind of exciting to see what you can actually do using this when you pair it with those 2 aspects. Now we've got Dune Marchers. This is one of my most used Titan exotics in PvP, and I actually used to use this a ton back before Void Arc Solar 3.0 hit. It's always been a strong choice, not too much in PvE. The chain did help out a lot when you were in some content, but frankly, not too crazy. So now the increased maximum chain count from 4 to 7, and each chain now grants 2 bolt charge stacks, 3 with a fragment, and glaive melees now trigger this chain, which is going to be actually extremely huge for not only creating bolt charge stacks, and the fact that your glaive melee will also trigger this chain is actually kind of exciting, and I will definitely be making a video about this specifically to see how viable we can actually make this. Then there's Ursa Furiosa. For a point in time, this was an extremely good exotic, particularly original Grandmaster Nightfalls, but it really hasn't seen much love since. So now, this will properly gain super energy if damage is blocked while the player has an overshield. Super energy stored is no longer scaled based on enemy difficulty. Super energy refund meter is doubled at in-power activities, and super energy refund meter is buffed by about 13.6% in negative 40 power activities. Not that any Titan is going to want to play this way, but this is going to give Titans a pretty decent ability to have a support role in any type of content. Next up is Second Chances. In activities without barrier champions, Second Chance can be a little bit lackluster. Yeah, kind of. Anyways, now this will spawn Void Breaches on Shield Throw Final Blows. It's going to grant Shield Throw melee energy upon picking up a Void Breach, and the Sentinel Shield Super's ranged attack will also weaken enemies with this exotic, which actually is pretty decent because that means not only are you weakening enemies for your teammates, but also your super is going to do more damage just because of the nature of weaken. They also fixed a bug where anti-barrier shield throw would not bounce to more than 2 targets, making it a little bit more viable. Next up is Armentarium. This one I'm actually extremely excited for. It's not the worst exotic as it is. It's pretty decent if you want to. We've done a build with this in the past, but now it's actually going to be better. With a second grenade charge is somewhat powerful, it's hard to choose Armentarium over really any other ability exotic. We're adding another ability to focus on the armaments and ordnance fantasy that the exotic suggests. This will now grant 10% grenade energy on weapon final blows and now reload the player's equipped weapon when using a grenade ability. In short, this exotic now will intrinsically have Demolitionist. A while ago, we were given a build by one of our community members, Waffle, which featured this exotic on a Pure Void Titan with the Bubble Super. Now, this just means this build got even better, and we will definitely be showcasing this for you because having Demolitionist intrinsically on your exotic and you don't have to use it as a weapon frees up a weapon perk for you, and grenade builds actually right now are extremely good and viable, so this will be a really fun one to look out for. Then we've got Lion Ramparts. In short, you can now shoot while ADS. I don't know why it took him so long to do that, but we can now fly and shoot while ADS. It's going to be really fun. Honestly, PvP, I could really see that one. Now, instead of having just floating Warlocks, you have floating Titans. There's also Peacekeepers coming up to round out the Titans. They wanted to equalize the PK's mobility bonus with other exotics and mods. So basically, it's increasing the mobility bonus from 25 to 30, and they've re-added ability to swap loaded SMGs. Basically, it's just going to make your Peacekeepers slightly better than they are now, and we know that Peacekeepers are insane with Teraba, the raid SMG from the new Desert Perpetual raid as well. Definitely a good one with Bolt Charge, Storm's Keep, and just Peacekeepers in general. This is going to make this build just slightly better than it already was. Now, to round this off, we have our Warlocks, some of the ones that I'm most excited for, starting with Nothing Manacles. So we remember recently there was a change to scatter grenades, right? So So charge grenades now create 4 more seekers. They've increased charge seeker damage versus combatants by 25%, improved charge seeker tracking versus combatants, and they've also increased its seeker lifetime, meaning it just stays out there longer. Now what it's going to do is it's going to have faster final projectile speed, spawn additional scatter seekers on a scatter grenade kill, and this effect can be chained, meaning your Warlock Void builds just got even better, because when you use like a triple firepower mod on top of the grenade, your seekers count as individual grenades, meaning they can all create an orb of power. Now that they break off and then they go faster and they create additional seekers on those scatter grenade kills, I'm going to say that this is going to just generate so many orbs. It is going to be utterly ridiculous. When you pair scatter grenade with chaos accelerant, it is just so much fun, and be on the lookout for this specific build. It is going to be great for any ad dense activity. Next up is Briarbinds, a void warlock exotic that has not seen a lot of uptime. Like many kill-oriented exotics, it does struggle to compete in higher difficulty content. So some of these adjustments, hopefully it is a little bit better for the gameplay loop. Now it's going to need fewer kills to max out on Briarbind's Void Soul damage bonus. It has been decreased from 6 down to 4, and additionally, the Briarbind's Void Soul now does more damage based on the amount of times it has been deployed on a target, up to 30% more damage for 10 seconds. Next on the list, we have Storm Dancer's Brace. The potency for this is pretty much entirely tied to the power of Storm Trance itself, so while Storm Trance is equipped, it will now grant you Bolt Charge for arc ability hits while you're amplified. Storm Trance's damage bonus now builds on hits instead of kills, increased max count to compensate. It now will need 30 hits to cap, so top end damage bonus is unchanged. It'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out, to see if it's actually a viable damage exotic now, but we'll definitely break that down once the launch is live. Now we have Winter's Guile. Just like Nothing Manacles, another Warlock exotic arm piece. This one I'm actually kind of excited to see how this ends up. So melee and finisher final blows now grant bonus melee damage, and melee final blows will grant 1 stack while finishers will grant 3. The max stack will now be 10 instead of the previous 5, and instead of losing all at once, you will lose 1 stack at a time, and each will last for 4.5 seconds. Once you reach 10 stacks, you will immediately gain 1 melee charge and enter Warlord's Rage when you activate your melee ability. You're going to have 10 seconds to activate Warlord's Rage, and while you're in that rage, you will gain dramatically increased melee regen, gain faster melee speed, and increase your melee damage up to 500%, and this is going to last for 10 seconds. Once that 10 seconds is up, you will lose all stacks of Warlord's Rage. I'm really interested to see how this pairs on a prismatic subclass using Arcane Needle and Lightning Surge. Now there's Matiodoxia, one of probably the most fun Strand Warlock builds in terms of neutral game, but frankly, they wanted a damage super, so let's see what this is going to look like. Hitting a target with 5 Needlestorm super projectiles will now activate the Stylostics Suspending Burst. This burst caused by the super deals radically increased damage to all targets caught in its radius. This burst should allow for Needlestorm to feel like a damage contender with the likes of Cuirass Thundercrash. That is a bold claim. I'm interested to see, because frankly, Needlestorm, not only does the tracking feel really poor and it just doesn't compete with damage supers in terms of your one and dones for Warlocks. So if they're claiming it's going to feel like a Cuirass Thundercrash, this thing better absolutely cook. And we'll break that down for you, of course, once it's live. Lastly is Dawn Chorus. This one is spoiler for the next week's ability tuning article. They're buffing Warlock's Daybreak super damage by 20% and letting Daybreak scorch targets by default, essentially shifting some of Dawn Chorus's functionality into the base super. The end result should be that Dawn Chorus plus Daybreak's damage increased by 5%, and the combo will now allow you to cause ignitions with a single projectile. So frankly, you have a little bit of a damage increase from your Dawn Blade thanks to Day Chorus. Total scorch stacks are going up, your ignitions are going up. This is going to be really, really good for ad clear for sure in ad dense activities, and I'm interested to see how it's going to do in terms of damage when you build into those scorch and ignition stacks. But there you have it. There is all of the exotic changes and reworks to some of the perks coming with Renegades here just in a couple of weeks. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. As always, thank you so much for coming and watching, and I will catch you in the next one.